Hello everybody, Matt over at SFREP. I'm glad you could join us here. We're going to go ahead and get started. This training will last about an hour with questions. Probably take about 50 minutes or so to go over everything we need to go over, and then we'll open it up for questions. So we'll go ahead and we'll get started here. The first thing that I want to go over with everybody is something that we added to 11.2 that really doesn't have anything to do with UAD, but we had to make some modifications to the File New dialog box anyways, so we decided to go ahead and add it. And that is down here at the bottom of the File New dialog box. Now, first of all, you'll notice that the File New dialog box in 11.2 is much larger than it was before. We've had that requested for a long time. This will allow you to see more forms at once. It's a little better organized, a little easier on the eyes, and you don't have to do quite as much scrolling. Down here at the bottom, we've added a search box here. So if you're looking for, say, a Bank of America form, you can type in Bank of America, hit search, and you'll see all the Bank of America forms we have. Looks like there's 3 there. If you're looking for the 2055, hit search. There's all the 2055 forms. So it's real simple, and if you want to see the full list again, you just hit clear. Now, we have separated out the UAD forms into separate reports. So if you have non-UAD reports that you still want to do, those are still available to you. All of those forms are listed up here at the top, and we've sandwiched the UAD forms in between the regular, most popular Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac forms and our residential multipurpose, the non-lending forms. There are 4 forms that UAD formatting applies to, and that is the 1004, the 2055, and then the 2 condo forms, the 1073 and the 1075. I'll go ahead and open up a UAD 1004, and this is a good time to bring up skeletons. If you have skeletons that you have made for your regular Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac forms, those won't be brought over automatically. You'll have to create new skeletons for your UAD reports. However, what you can do is you can go into one of your original, like say your original 1004, and you'll be able to save that, like just open up a blank skeleton and then immediately save it as a report, and then you can come over here into a blank 3x5 or 4x6 skeleton for one of your corresponding UAD reports, and then import that data in, and then make the necessary modifications like the fonts and stuff like that, and then you can save it, and of course to make it UAD compliant, and then you can save it as a new skeleton. So you will, if you have a lot of skeletons, you will be able to bring them over. However, if you have really simplistic skeletons, it's probably easier just to create a new skeleton for you. So I don't have any skeletons here. I'm just going to open up a blank 3x5. And when it opens up, we're going to, first of all, we want to go over the layout here that we've chosen. Now, some of the other software vendors, actually all of them, decided to go with a pop-up of some type. 2 of them decided to go with actual dialogue pop-ups. We didn't like the dialogue pop-up when we tested it out because it got in your way too much. And appraisers that use Appraise-It like to use their keyboard, and as you would move down through the report, you would just keep having these pop-ups popping about you over and over and over again. It become really annoying very quickly. One of the other vendors went with kind of a pop-up overlay. We didn't like that because we found it visually confusing in practice, and we also found that it would often cover up things that might be useful to you that were previous in the report that you might want to look at while you were actually filling out that particular report. So our goal was we wanted to stay out of your way as much as possible, and because most of the fields on this report are not UAD. The majority of them are not UAD locked fields. So what we decided to go with was a UAD helper panel, and that's what you see over here on the left-hand side. So here's your UAD panel. And the overarching concept here is real simple. Whenever you get to one of these green fields, these green fields are locked UAD fields. So whenever you get to one of these green fields, when you click into it, you'll see the UAD helper over here comes to life, and then you'll move over here, you'll fill it out, and then you can either move out of the field or hit apply and dump that information in there. So the big concept here that you need to be aware of is anytime you see a green field, you're going to come over here and fill this form out in order to fill out that green field. Okay? Now, there's a little nuance to that, of course. First of all, how do you get over to the UAD helper? Well, there's a couple ways to do that. First of all, you can just use your mouse, which is what most people seem to be doing. When you get to one of these fields, you can just use your mouse, come over here and start filling it out. And then when you're done, you can either hit apply, and you'll stay in the same field, and it'll just dump your information in there, or you can simply just click out to the next field. The other way you can do it is using the keyboard. You can actually stay on the keyboard the whole time. So what I can do here is I can do an alternate, when I get into this field, I can do an alternate enter, and then you'll see what that did. That jumped my cursor over here, and so I can do days on market, 120, I can use my tab key to come down here to my description, and I can start typing out my description. Now, here you'll see that I have both a regular description and then I've got extended comments. And this concept works just like it does over here in the main form. So if I start typing some information out, oops, I made a little mistake there. And everybody always gets a chuckle out of what I use for my testing. There's a method of my madness. This is an average length sentence, and it's numbered, so I can always tell when things break apart or when they go to when they trip over to extended comments. So I'm going to do a little cheating here and copy and paste that to get some more text in there. Now you'll see that we have this characters remaining count. This is a conservative estimate of how many characters at a normal font that you could fit into this particular cell before it needs to trip over to extended comments. So right now you'll see I'm at 16. So if I keep typing, you'll see what happens. It puts see additional comments there, and it jumps me into the extended comments, and I get the cow jumped over the moon 2 times, cow jumped over the moon 3 times, and I could just keep typing here as I normally would. I'm going to cheat again. I'm going to use my my pasting here, but you can see you can even do like paragraph breaks just like you would in the regular extended comments. However, these extended comments you can't use any kind of rich text formatting. So you can't do underlines, bolds, you can't insert images, charts, graphs, things like that. UAD does dictate that these extended comments have to be text only. And then when I'm done here, I can just hit alternate enter again, and it will jump me to the next field, which in this case was this checkbox here, and it dumped everything that I did into that field there. And if I go to that field and I hit my extended comments, you can see that I have extended comments listed here as well. Now here I cannot edit by clicking in here because you have to do everything over here in the UAD helper. So I can't edit these extended comments. If I want to look at them, this would be for visual, just for your purposes only, for just seeing how it's going to look. All right. So it's real simple as far as how these multi-line fields work. Now with your F keys, a lot of people always ask about these F keys. These F keys will work when you are in a UAD field and in the UAD helper over here, where you have a comment field. So they'll work in the regular comments, they'll work in extended comments. They won't work in single line UAD fields, so that's important to note. Okay, they won't work in extended comment fields. Or excuse me, they won't work in fields that don't have comments. Now in other fields where there are extended comments available, it's all business as usual. This is all just like if you were in a regular 1004 report. We wanted to make it that way. If you're not having to deal with UAD, we want to make it as much like filling out a regular report as possible. So when you're in these fields, it's business as usual. Now is also a good time to bring up the use of a widescreen monitor. Trust me when I tell you that the best money that you will spend will be to get a widescreen monitor so that you can work with UAD. Now it'll work without a widescreen monitor, but you get the best performance out of it if you get a widescreen monitor. Now what you're viewing here is I have a widescreen monitor. The big advantage of it is nice high resolution. I can see the text. Everything is very legible. And the UAD helper is not squeezing this to a point where I can't see it. It's not taking up a big chunk of the screen. Now I know a lot of us don't have the best eyes. I'm only 35, but I've been looking at a computer screen for most of my life since I was like 10. So my eyes have kind of become shot as well. But if you can get like a 22-inch widescreen monitor right now for like $135, and even at its high resolution, it's still easy to see the text, especially on a 22-inch monitor. So I highly recommend you get like a 22-inch monitor. Like I said, you can get them at Best Buy, Office Depot, Staples for around $130. Trust me, it will be the best $130 you ever spend. If you don't go that route, you might, if you see if I take this and I make it into like a square here, you'll see that the text becomes kind of, this is like what you would see if you had a regular square monitor. You see the text becomes kind of hard to read. One thing you can do if you find yourself in this position is you can come down here to draft mode, and you can select draft mode. What it does is it abbreviates a lot, and it gives you more space for it to make it bold and large. But by default, you'll be in the non-draft mode. Now, we do have a minimum horizontal screen resolution of 768 pixels. If you ever want to know what resolution you're at, you can right-click on your desktop. If you're on Windows XP, you're going to go to Properties. If you're on Windows 7 or Vista, you're going to go to Screen Resolution. Here it shows me that my screen resolution is a nice hefty 1680 by 1050. That second number has to be at least 768. That's the minimum resolution that will work with Appraise-It. So you need to make sure you have at least 768 pixels in the vertical, which would be the second number. In Windows XP, what you'll do is you'll right-click on the desktop, go to Properties, and then go to the very last tab. I think it's System Settings or something, or Display Resolution, and you'll be able to see what your resolution is there. What I would recommend you do is adjust that so it's big enough to where you can stand it, where you can still read everything. That way you have as much real estate as possible to be able to move around with. Okay, so let's move on down here into the grid, and we're going to play around with some of our more prevalent single cell, single line UAD fields. You'll find most of these down in the grid. So first thing I want to do is I want to make sure I have a good valid address in here. So I'm going to use our office address here in Sylva, North Carolina. So 310 East Main Street. Now a lot of stuff has been going around about the property address. So let's set that record straight now. UAD, Fannie Mae in general, as long as you're putting in an address that if you sent a letter could get to that physical address, that's what they care about. So they're not going to be picky about, this can't be E period instead of East, or you have to spell out street or something like that. As long as this address is somewhere that the Postal Service could get to it, that's what they care about. What they really care about, though, is you got to watch that state. That state has to be a two-letter, all uppercase abbreviation. So NC, MA, there's no periods or anything, so you can't go TENN for Tennessee or TEX for Texas. You got to do both capital letters, and we all know the two letters state abbreviations, or we should by now. You probably learned them in elementary school. All right, so let's come down here in the grid. So one change is that the second line of the address now has the city, state, and the zip. And if you're in a condo form, it will have the unit number, comma, the city, state, and the zip. In a condo form, it is required that you have to have a unit number. If you are in a condo that is a true condo, meaning it's in a building with other units, and you don't have a unit number, what you need to do is you need to check some of the legal documentation for that unit or for the building because there is always going to be some type of way to differentiate that unit from another unit other than just the street address. If it is a standalone quote-unquote condo that has its own street address and it's not attached to anything, then Fannie Mae wants you to use a 1004 because that's not really a condo. Okay? So just keep that in mind. When you use a condo form, Fannie Mae requires that there be a unit number of some kind. So even if it's like you look in the documentation, it's a lot number or something like that, they want that. Now, one of the things that you can't do in the address field up here is do the double equals or the single equals or the equal one or whatever, which would copy either the subject or copy what the city, state, and zip you had for comp number one. So what we've instituted is this same as subject button. So if all three of my comps, Sylva is a small town. It's in more of a rural area here in western North Carolina. It's near Asheville, but it's kind of out on its own. So pretty much anything surrounding it in the county has a Sylva, North Carolina 28779 address. So all of my comps more than likely would have the same address. So I could just do same as subject. You'll see it fills it in, and then I just click out of the cell and it dumps it in there. So same as subject, same as subject. A little bit of mouse movement, but you don't have to type everything over. Pretty soon we're also going to add a little box here that will contain about the last 20 city, state, zip combinations that you used. And so that'll be kind of a compromise since you can't use these F keys up here. It'll be a compromise so that you can see the last 20 or so, and you can just click it and it'll fill it in. You can just move out or hit apply. Down here in the grid though, you can still use the equals and the double equals. And the way this will work is, say I go into the location here and I use my pull downs here. We'll say that this subject is beneficial because it is on a golf course and has a secondary location type of waterfront, because maybe it's in front of a water hazard or a lake or something. I hit apply and then it puts the abbreviations in there for me. So first of all, you don't even have to worry about learning these abbreviations because we're just going to keep track of them for you. It's a piece of cake. So now when I come in here to comp number one, I could do same as subject, or, and you see that's what it did there. Let me clear that and move out. Or what I can do is I can do an equal, and it puts it in there for me. Or I could do a double equal, and it'll put it in all the way across. So maybe they're all right next to each other. It'll put them all the way across. You can do that anywhere where you have the adjustments field here. The rest of these, pretty self-explanatory. Probably the most famous new additions to UAD are the quality of construction and the condition. So if I come down here and I select quality of construction, you have a 6-point scale from Q1 to Q6, Q1 being the best, Q6 being the worst. And they kind of all boil them down into those 6 selections. You'll also notice that 6 is an even number, which means there is no middle ground. So you have to at least make a determination if you're a person like, say, average a lot. They did this on purpose. You have to make a determination on whether it's slightly above average or slightly below the average. Okay? So I can hit Q3 there, and then we come under here, under condition, it's kind of the same story. Condition, maybe I do a C3. So this is the quality construction, and then this is its current condition. We also have the actual age. You can't put effective age in here, like a lot of people would put a slash and put effective age. They just want the actual age. And let's say the actual age is maybe 7 years old. I had someone today call in, and they had a 91-year-old house, but the condition was C2 because it had just been completely renovated. So they were asking, look, my actual age is 91, but my effective age is like 10. Well, Fannie's going to know that based upon what you gave for the current condition and then how old it is. So if you look at the current condition, you see how old it is, they're going to kind of know that the thing must have been remodeled recently. It's been kept in really good condition. Finally, I want to go over basements. Finally, in the grid here, at least, I want to go over the basements. A lot of, especially in the southeast, especially in Texas, but especially around here and in other parts of the southeast, you don't have basements. They're fairly rare. So what you'll do here is when you don't have a basement, you just hit apply here, and it'll put a 0 square feet, and then you'll leave the second for the rooms below grade. That'll be left blank. Okay. Now, if you do have a basement, you need to fill in, okay, so we've got below grade total square feet. I'm going to use my house as an example. So below grade total square feet for my basement is something around the neighborhood of 700 square feet. All of it is finished, so we'll do 700 there. And then a basement exit type. Now, I have 2 exits. I have an interior only, and I have a walkout. I'm going to select whichever one will get me outside the fastest. So I'm going to select walkout, or whichever one would be worth more. Hit apply, and it puts the proper abbreviations in there. Then for rooms below grade, in my particular case, room below grade, recreation room count, I've got 1. Below grade bedroom count, there's a small bedroom. Full bathroom. Now there are no quarter baths rather in UAD. A quarter bath becomes no bath, doesn't count. And a 3/4 bath becomes a full bath. So I have a 3/4 bath in there, so I'm going to count that as 1 full bath. Below grade half bathroom count is none, and below grade other room count is 1 because I have a laundry room down there. Hit apply, puts the proper abbreviations in there for me. And if you're wondering, hey, how am I going to figure all this information out? I asked Fannie Mae's lead appraiser this, and he said you need to find this information out in the course of normal business. They're pretty emphatic that they want to know this information about your comps. Now, a lot of the MLSs are starting to collect this information now. But if it means you need to call up the realtor, or if you need to call, knock on a door, or call, the owner of the house, or whatever you need to do, they want you to make an effort to find out this information. If you have to estimate, or if you can't get the information, they want you to tell them in the comments why you were not able to. A couple of places where we've been getting a lot of calls because of various types of confusion. One of them is under the contract section. Refinance. You don't have a contract in a refinance, obviously. So what they want you to do is if you have a refinance or you have some other non-sale transaction where there's not going to be a contract involved, they want you to leave this contract section from here down to here completely blank. Don't check any check boxes, nothing. You're going to leave all of this blank. Get a lot of calls on that. Dimensions. You'll see dimensions and area are both marked as UAD fields. In reality, the dimensions field is not a UAD field, but it is linked to the area field because of the dimensions calculator, so we made it a UAD field. So it doesn't matter which of these you actually click into. If you're going to get this little thing for land value per unit area, just hit cancel for that. And then you can use the dimensions calculator. So if your property is roughly 4-sided, you can enter your measurements here, and it will automatically calculate the area for you. The area, if it's below one acre, which you can see down here in the help, is 43,560 square feet. If it's less than that, then they want you to give the area in square feet. If it is more than that, if it's more than 1 acre, they want you to give it to them in an acre to 2 decimal places. So 3.5 acres would be 3.50. And then you pull down here and you select acres. If you don't have a square lot, if it's like 6-sided, we get a lot of that here in the mountains because there's just not a lot of flat area around here. Then what you can do is you can come out here to dimensions. You can type in irregular there, or you could give the dimensions if you want to see if they can fit. But they don't really care what you put in dimensions. You can put whatever you want in there. What they really care about is that area there. So if I just put unknown, hit apply, and there we go. It's got 3.5 acres and it has unknown there. Finally, we get a lot of calls on this one. Down here in the secondary grid, I always call it the secondary grid. This is where your prior sales and transfers are. So if you say no for your subject, for instance, that your research did not reveal any prior sales or transfers, what Fannie Mae wants you to do is, if for any of these addresses, if there was no prior sale or transfer, then they want you to leave these 2 fields blank. Completely blank. Don't put NA in there. Don't put 0 in there. They want them completely blank. And by the way, in any of these fields, UAD or not, if you're ever wondering what they want in those particular fields, check out the help down here, because for all of these help areas, we have specific information written down there. They do want you to put the data sources and the effective date, so they want to know what you did as far as research, like where you researched in order to find out there was no prior sale or transfer. If you have more than 1 prior sale or transfer in the last year, if it's changed hands 2 or 3 times, enter the first one in the grid here, and then they want the additional information down here in the comps, or in the comments, or in your regular comments. Also, for prior sale transfer, they want a $sign. Now that $sign is not going to be put in there automatically for you. You got to do it yourself. So do 150,000. That's how they want to see it. Make sure you type in that $sign there. Okay. Also, for John and Jane Smith, who are going to be doing this, who are going to be eventually getting this appraisal in their hands, of course, they don't know anything about UAD, so this is going to be complete gibberish to them. They're not going to know what the heck any of this stuff means. So if you go to Contents, Additional Addenda 6, you will see UAD abbreviations explained, pages 1, 2, and 3. Here we give very easy to understand explanations about what the Q and the C ratings mean. We also list the abbreviations, what the abbreviation stands for, and then where you would find that abbreviation. And then on the 3rd page, we have a kind of a grid here where you can fill stuff out yourself. In addition to that, when you're in the Q and C sections, if you need a reminder of what the Q and the C ratings are, you can click down here. It'll say for definitions of the quality ratings, click in the online help link below. So if you click on online help, it's going to open up a web page and take you to our website where we have all of this written out in a nice, easy to read fashion. We tried putting them into this little help box, but it was too cramped and it was too hard to read. So we decided to give you a link where it takes you out to a nice, nicely formatted web page that you can then go ahead and print. Okay, so now that we've kind of gone over everything you need to know in order to fill in these fields, of course, we have a lot of helper applications out there that help make your life a little bit easier. One of the biggest is either Photograph-A Plus or the Comp Manager. So what's going to happen when you've been keeping track of your comps, and all of your comps are not in UAD format right now, the majority of them at least at this point. So what's going to happen when you take that non-UAD information and you dump it into the UAD field? So I'm going to demonstrate this with our Comp Manager, and the Comp Manager is available to all SFREP customers that are currently on subscription. We include it. I'm not going to go over how to actually use that program right now. We do have some videos on our website that kind of go over it with you, and we are doing some trainings as well on how to use that particular product. But I mean, the only thing you really need to know is that it keeps track of your comps. It's a comp index, and it keeps track of all. It allows you to search through all of your back comps that you've ever done in any appraisal that's stored on your computer. So you've got, and it's all automated, so you don't have to build the database or manage the database. It's an index. So every time you do a new report, then those addresses get added into the index. Whoops, actually I selected the Image Manager. All right, we want to go to the Comp Manager under Tools. So all you really need to know is I'm going to do 2 things with the Comp Manager. I'm going to take a UAD formatted address, I'm going to put it into the grid, and I'm going to take a non-UAD address and put it into the grid. So I'm just going to do a blanket search here. And I have, let's see here, okay, let's go over to page 2. I think I got some more. Okay, so here we have, right here we have a non-UAD formatted address, and then we have a UAD formatted address. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you what each of them, and you can tell this one's UAD because it says UAD, Uniform Residential Appraisal, and this one's not UAD because it just says Uniform Appraisal. So I'm going to put the non-UAD formatted one in comp number 1, and then I'm going to put the UAD formatted one in comp number 2. We'll transfer those over to the report, and what I'm going to show you next will apply to whether you're using WinComp or you're using Photograph-It Plus or whatever. It doesn't matter which program it is. We're basically accomplishing where we're dumping non-UAD information to the grid and then UAD information to the grid. So you'll see here with the information that's not UAD formatted, all of my cells that aren't properly UAD formatted turn red. Now the data still goes in there, but it turns red, which means I need to deal with it. So for condition, I had good in there. If I select good, we'll come down here and I'll say maybe that's a C2, and then I'll click up to the next one. Age 2002, so that's what, 9 years? We'll move up, and then I had good for quality, so we'll select Q2 there, and we'll just keep moving on. So you see what, well, there it goes. You'll see what happens is whenever I make a correction there, then these cells will turn green. And you'll see over here for column number 2, which had all of its information already in UAD format, comp number 2, everything's already green. So if I already have comp information that's already pre-formatted in UAD, when I put it into the report, then all of that information will already be in the proper format. Now, you're done with your report, or you're almost done with your report, or you're pretty much done with the report. So the next thing you need to do is you need to check it against UAD specs to make sure that you dotted all your I's and crossed all your T's in relation to UAD. Because there are other UAD reports that don't, or there are other UAD fields that aren't marked green, where you have to do certain little things like put a 0 there or put none there or something like that. So instead of forcing you into using the UAD helper on all those fields, these are fields that you're going to very quickly, after maybe the 3rd or 4th appraisal you've done, figure out what you need to put in those fields. But we still need to check it, make sure that you did all of them correctly. That's where the UAD helper, the UAD validator comes in. You can activate the UAD validator by either clicking on this checkbox up on the toolbar, or you can come to Contents, and you can, or excuse me, come to the Tools menu, and you can select UAD Validator. Both will work the same way. So what it's going to do is it's going to check the report, and it's going to give you a list of errors and warnings. And of course, I've got a ton of them here because I haven't filled out this report. So let's just single out one of them, required HOA. That's the second one in the list right now. A value is required for HOA if there is no value for the item, enter 0. So if I want to jump to that particular field that it's talking about, I can either double-click or I can hit Go to Field. And you'll see what it did is it jumped me up here into the UAD field, and of course, the HOA field. And I haven't filled anything in there, so let's say that maybe my homeowner association dues are $120 per month. Now I can bring the UAD validator back up, I can hit revalidate, and now you'll see that that's gone. You're going to want to strive for all of your errors and all of your warnings to be gone. Now, errors have to be dealt with. Warnings can still go through the portal and still be fine. But you really want to, your goal, and it's not too hard to do, your goal is to get all of your errors gone and all of your warnings gone. And of course, after you've got about 10 of these under your belt, you're going to be able to do them in your sleep, and you'll probably run this thing and you may have like 1 or 2 errors, or that's it. Okay, but of course the first few times you do them, you're going to have a lot of them. So that's how the validation works. Once you've validated everything, you've gotten rid of all your errors and warnings, you're ready to send your report off. So sign it, and then you're going to send it off in a manner that it really depends on how you're going to send it to your lender or AMC. Depends on the lender or the AMC. So if they've been using the Excite Order Manager in the past, if they've been using Lighthouse, eServices, both of those are from ACI, if they've been using AI Ready, you're going to probably continue to send that, and the method that you're going to use to send that is going to remain roughly the same. You may want to check with those vendors of those products to double check. I can tell you right now for AI Ready, it's exactly the way you would have normally sent it before. You'll just want to make sure that you do run it through the validator first, because AI Ready doesn't have its own checker. Of course, you've already done that, so you're ready to go ahead and send them. Now, what about those lenders or AMCs that have either had you been they've had you email them the reports in the past, or they have had you upload it to a website. What you're going to need to do is you're going to need to create an XML of a MISMO XML of your report. Now, what's MISMO XML? What's XML? A lot of people ask that. They don't understand what XML is. All XML is it's a markup language, and it's a way for the long and short of it, it's a way for a computer to read in data in context. So in an XML file, it might say, here comes the property address. Then it'll give you the property address, and then it'll say that was the property address. It's real simple. It's not for human consumption. XML is for computers to read. What a human would read would be the PDF. So MISMO, and by the way, XML has nothing to do with the appraisal industry at all. You probably use XML 30 times a day and you don't even know it. You use it at the grocery store when you're checking out. You're using it when you go to the ATM. Your phone uses it. Your smartphone uses it all the time. As a matter of fact, this little this list here with all of the different reports that you can do, XML. It's everywhere. Now, MISMO XML is specific. It's a flavor or format of XML specific to the appraisal industry. It's a standardized format, and the long and short of it, what it means is that if you generate a MISMO XML and somebody else with ClickForm, say, generates a MISMO XML, and you both send it into the lender, it's going to be in the same format, so the lender is guaranteed to be able to read it. Okay. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to generate this XML file, and what we do is when we generate the XML file, we also spit out the PDF version of it. So you get a PDF and an XML saved in the same place. The reason for this now, the XML file has the PDF embedded inside of it, but if you're emailing your report to somebody, you're going to want to send them both the XML and the PDF, because chances are they're going to process the report using the PDF, but they're going to need that XML file when they upload your report through the portal to Fannie or Freddie for underwriting. So they're going to need that XML then. So if a human's going to be dealing with it, they're going to do it with the PDF, and everything in the PDF is going to match exactly what's in the XML file, because the XML is built off of the PDF. If you're uploading it through a website, like a portal of some kind, more often than not, you're only going to have to send them the XML file. Now, of course, this will vary from lender to lender, AMC to AMC. You'll want to double check with them first. But for the most part, if they have a portal, they're probably going to want you to only upload the XML file, because it has the PDF file built into it. So how do you create this magical XML file? Well, you're going to go to the Orders menu, and then you're going to select Create MISMO XML. Now, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to run your report back through that validation process again. Now, the reason I had you run the validator before you got to this point, because by the time you get to this point, you've already signed the report. And if you've already signed the report, if you have something you need to address, you're going to have to unsign the report, change it, then re-sign the report, and then revalidate it. That's just a hassle. So run the validation process first. That way, by the time you get to this point and it reruns it, and it's just going to check it one more time, because we got to double check it. It's going to run the check on it one more time. Here you shouldn't have any errors or warnings, so I'm just going to hit Next. We'll pretend like I don't. Now, the next screen, it's going to ask you where you want to save this XML and the PDF file that goes along with it. Now, by default, it's going to save it in the TrawData PDF folder, which is where your PDFs have been saved by Appraise-It for years now if you've been using the built-in PDF creator. Personally, I like to save them to the desktop. And the reason for this is it just makes it a lot easier to find. So I'm going to go to the desktop. I'm going to hit Save. So now you can see now it's going to Matt Desktop, and it's going to name the XML and the PDF files whatever you have saved your previous report. I haven't saved this report yet, so it's just doing the default UA5FM-3x5. Okay, so once we've taken care of that and we know where our PDF and our XML are going to go, we're going to hit Next. And then this is where you actually build the PDF. You've done this 1,000 times before. This is the Print Commander interface that you're very familiar with. So I'm not going to go over that. If you have print schemes, you can use those as well. Build your PDF in the way that you want it, and that's also how the XML file is also going to be generated. It's going to be generated off what you put in here for the PDF. So now I'm going to select Create PDF, and then what it's going to do is it's going to generate the PDF, and then it's going to turn around and it's going to generate the XML file based off the PDF, and now it's done. And if I want, I could click View PDF. I'm going to hit Exit here and minimize, and you will see here are my PDF and my XML file. Now you'll notice on my computer that it says whatever .xml and it says whatever .pdf. Chances are on your computer it may not do that, and the reason for that is because Windows by default is set to hide the file extensions. That's that dot whatever for known file types. That's actually a security hole, and I recommend that people change it, but I also recommend you change it now because it's going to make it a lot easier for you to differentiate which one's the XML file and which one's the PDF file. The way that you do that is very simple. Click on your Start menu, or if you're on Windows 7 or Windows Vista, the Start marble, as I like to call it, and then go to either Computer in Vista or 7, or go to My Computer in Windows XP. Now in Windows XP you'll already have the menu up at the top. If you're on Vista or 7, you're going to have to hit the alternate key to get the menu here. Okay? And we're going to have a separate video that will be posted that will show you how to do this. But what you're going to do is once you've got that menu up, you're going to go to Tools and go to Folder Options. Then you're going to go to View, and down here you'll see a checkbox here for Hide Extensions for Known File Types. If you have that checked, you're going to want to uncheck it. Now mine's already unchecked. Hit OK, and now what will happen is that all files you'll be able to see what their extension is. So you can see easily, I can see that this is the PDF and that this is the XML. It's going to kind of word wrap there a little bit weird, but you can see which one's which. Now with those two files now, if I'm going to be emailing them off to someone, if I'm emailing it, like I said, rule of thumb, this won't apply to everyone. You may want to double check with your lender or AMC, but rule of thumb, if you're emailing, send the PDF and the XML file. If you're uploading it to a portal, you'll probably only have to send the XML file. But once again, check with your lender or your AMC on that. Okay, now we're almost done, but there's a couple of small things that I want to show you. First of all, I want to take you to our website. And on our website, first of all, I have a condensed version of what I've just gone over with you here. It says Appraise-It UAD training video. This will take you out to YouTube, and you can watch kind of a condensed 8-minute version. It's kind of the light version of what we've gone over here. Also up at the top, you can click on Training, and then click on Video Library on the left-hand side. These are all the different videos that we've posted to our website. Now there are some promo videos mixed in there. But you'll see these like quick hit videos. This is what we're doing as far as whatever we're getting a lot of calls on right now, we'll make a quick hit video for it. And that way if we get a call on it, I can direct someone to a quick hit video. And then you guys can come here and you can check out whatever the quick hit videos are, the most popular ones right now. In addition to that, we also post the quick hit videos to our Facebook page. Now, I've got a captive audience here. I'm going to do a shameless plug real quick for Facebook and Twitter. You don't have to have a Twitter or a Facebook account to look at our Twitter feeds and our Facebook feeds. We do post really interesting information about the industry here. We also post alerts about stuff that we found out about to disseminate information to you guys. And we also post some fun things here too. We run contests, things like that. And it's kind of a way for us to talk to our customers and they can talk back to us. Like I said, you don't have to have a Facebook or Twitter account to look at either of these. If I click on Twitter, you can see that even if you're not signed in, you can actually look at the Twitter page, although Twitter is usually kind of slow during the day. It looks like it's now pulling up here. So there's our Twitter feed there. The other thing we use Twitter and Facebook for is quote-unquote emergency communications. So if the fiber optics here to our building go down, or our telephone system goes down, or if the maps are down and our phone lines get clogged because people can't get their maps, we will immediately post what the problem is and an estimated time of resolution on Facebook and Twitter. So you can save yourself a call. If you ever think that something's down or something's not working, first go to help and then do Twitter or Facebook and check them out. See if the problem has been addressed there. Okay, so I think that's going to cover everything. So in just a moment, I'm going to unmute everyone and we're going to go ahead and take questions. I do ask that if you're on a telephone or a headset that you go ahead and mute yourself unless you actually need to ask a question. Then, of course, unmute yourself so we can hear you. Okay? So with that being said, I'm going to unmute everybody. Does anybody have any questions at all? Yes, go ahead. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's correct. That's correct. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and you see that a lot in rural areas. I know in West Virginia this is common. It's common in Texas too, where you'll see like rural route 5 box 12, Farmington, West Virginia or whatever, and the zip code. So yeah, you're right. They do. They want, in most cases, in most places this isn't a problem anymore because of the implementation of enhanced 911 or E911. Which when it came through this area through here, which we're outside of a decent sized city, but there's some rural areas around here that you just had dirt roads that were or small roads that weren't even named, or they just had colloquial names. They had to come through and they had to actually give them names, so that every property in the county had to have an actual physical address. But yeah, you're right. You do run into that, especially in rural areas where you'll just have State Route 5, Rural Route 5, whatever. So that's a good point. Hmm. Exactly. Good point. Yep. Hmm. Hmm. Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah, and that's what came up in a call that I had today, where the actual age when I went over it earlier was the actual age of the house was 91, but it was a Q2 because it had been updated, in the last 10 years. And then he had another house that was only, like 30 years old that was also a Q2. But of course, you're going to probably want to make some type of adjustment there. So yeah, that's also a very good point. Well, not really. What you have to understand, what they're doing. And I know the people at Fannie Mae. I've been working with them closely for a year. What they're really doing is they want to standardize all this stuff so that they can process all of these reports instead of having an army of people to go through them. They want to be able to process them with a computer. They want standardized information there so the computer can make certain determinations on the actual properties and on the reports using algorithms, and that takes human bias because we're all going to be biased on some level. It's going to take the human bias out of it. It's going to allow them to process it a lot quicker, and it's going to allow them to process it much more accurately. And it's going to save them a ton of money because they're not going to have to pay somebody 12, 13, 14 bucks an hour to sit there and data entry and process these reports. They're going to have a computer. They'll be able to do them, you know, 50 at a time, instantaneously. So that's the main reason. That's why they went with this XML delivery so that the computer on the other end can actually read through it. Hmm. No, the embedded PDF has, of course, more addenda and pages because not all of the addenda are going to be able to translate into XML. Well, they want to be able to process the report, the main chunk of the report, but they need to have all that other detailed information. So that's where your extended comments and stuff like that are going to come from. Those are going to be in the PDF. Also, in the XML doesn't have images embedded in the XML. The images are in the PDF. So it's kind of a package deal. The XML allows them to get the overview of the actual appraisal and be able to do the majority of the processing on it. But if they need to go through there and they need to see the photos, if they need to see the extended comments, that's what the PDF is going to be there for. So they can process the majority of it with a computer, but if a human needs to get involved, that PDF is embedded inside that XML. They can extract it out, and then they can actually have a human go through it and make some additional determinations or get some additional information from it. And then, of course, the PDF is needed when it goes back to when it finally gets to John and Jane Smith, who are trying to get the loan as well, of course, or the closing or whoever's doing that kind of stuff. Mhm. Well, actually, I talked to the lead appraiser over at Fannie Mae about this today because I got a call on this and a customer had a question on it, and he said that that Fannie would and Freddie would prefer that if you have room and you have listings to put them on the comp grid because they do actually have under sale and I think it's under sale and financing sale type. There's a selection here for listing. So they would like to have them in UAD, but UAD formatting only applies to comps 1 through 9. So if you have room, they would like to have your listings on the comp grid, but it is also acceptable to put them on the listings as well if you want to go that route. Mm, yeah, yeah, it's going to be an interesting next few months, I'm sure. All right, that's quite all right. Does anybody else have any questions before we wrap up? Sure, go ahead. Ah, good. I'm very glad you brought this up because I know where you're going with this. Hmm. Okay, right. Right. That's the way. That's well. That's the way Fannie wants it. That's the UAD guidelines. So for everybody else that may not be aware, they haven't gotten to this section yet. What they're referring to is like when you have a new house. First of all, you have to make a selection here. So obviously, it's a new house. So you haven't updated, right? And so yours will be C2. You haven't updated the bathroom. You haven't updated the kitchen because they're brand new. And then you're going to make some comments here. So we'll just put the word comments there. So when you hit apply, what you're going to get is C2, no updates in the prior 15 years, and then comments. And a lot of people have really been keying in on this right here. It says, no updates in the last 15 years. Well, the house is only 3 years old. Well, Fannie's viewpoint on that is, yeah, but even if the house is 3 years old or 2 years old or 1 year old or new construction, there still haven't been any updates in the prior 15 years. So they're going to know that. So this is proper UAD formatting. This is the way that they want to see it. And I see where you're coming from, though. Hmm. Hmm. Hey, if you know, hmm that's what I would do. Yeah, I'd make up for it in the comments. I mean, and I keep in mind when the homeowner sees this or when the people buying it, they're going to be way more lost than before they get here anyway. So, I mean, with all this UAD stuff, the average Joe is going to look at this and go, I have no idea what this thing says. So, they, that is exactly right. Now, hasn't right, no updates in the prior 15 years because obviously there have not been any updates because it's new construction or it's fairly new. So, exactly right. Right, exactly. Yeah, that's the way I understand it as well. And one other thing I do want to go over on this particular that applies to this particular cell, we've been getting a lot of calls on this. If you're running your monitor at a lower resolution, which I'll mimic here by doing this, you will see if I had a smaller resolution, what I get here is I can't see my extended comments, and that's been causing a lot of people trouble. That's why we added this little scroll bar, and a lot of people don't see the scroll bar. So if you find yourself in that position, you'll want to look for that scroll bar, and you can scroll down, and then you'll have access to the extended comments. So I did want to go over that because I know there's a lot of people that's affected. Yeah, that's just because people can't see that extended comment page, so they keep trying to retype it, and it keeps tripping over and over and over and over. Yeah, yeah. So common problem we've been getting a lot of calls on. So just look for that little scroll bar there. All right. Any other questions before we wrap up? All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming. I really appreciate it, and hopefully this was valuable to you, and you were able to get everything you needed out of it. I hope everyone has a great week. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.